Am I on?
That's why I pointed at you.
Hi. Hello again. Thanks for joining me. Today's Monday, the 27th of September. So we've been doing this for about 2 months. This is the last Monday night of September, so I'm going to kick this week off by reading from book 6 of my Walkerville. No, actually it's book 7. It's my latest book. And I'm going to tell you later on, as the week goes on, about plans for to revamp things so that more of you might be able to join me live. And then there's news about projects that I have in the works, and a special holiday novella for my regular readers. So what I'm going to read about tonight is sort of setting the tone for the beginnings of a courtship between these two people who don't talk very much. They're very shy. They're kind of like being in their own company. And they're friends. And they sort of wake up one morning, each of them sort of separately, of course, thinking, wow, what would happen if we, took it a step further? So this is the first piece of it, and it's between the pie lady, Sue Reynolds, who you've all met, and Walkerville's go-to, guy for hauling and general handyman work, just a really affable, wonderful person, Ted Craggs. So the book is called Rewire. It's the seventh book, of the Walkerville Desire Stories. So this is a piece from early on. Ted Craggs, hauler extraordinaire, had been a good friend and employer of Ronnie's. He had made it a point to stop by once a month to see if Sue needed anything, any work done around the house. Kind and thoughtful, Ted knew Sue would never ask for help. She would always would do without rather than be vulnerable. At first, Ted did this because it was in his nature. And as the years went by, he did this because he wanted to. Eventually, he discovered that the time spent with Sue was a highlight of his modest life. At first, he was wary of his offers. After a few months of Ted continuing to show up, wondering if Sue needed... I'm sorry. My fat totem has made this sort of post-it note with a red circle and crossed out, because I guess I say a lot. I apologize. It's a tick I have, kind of like blinking my eyes. So anyway, as years went by, he did this because he wanted to do so, and eventually he discovered that time spent with Sue was the highlight of his modest life. At first, Sue was wary of his offers. After a few months of Ted continuing to show up, wondering if she needed any help, she gradually began to understand that he really did mean it. He did really want to help. And he refused any payments. So Sue always gave him a meal, and, for his friendship and for his labor. And neither of them acknowledged that their shared meals was like sanctuary, an anchor in the world. Theirs was an easy friendship to begin with. And they began their separate relationships with Ronnie sort of in the mix. Ted would pick Ronnie up early in the morning for hauling jobs, and drop him off late in the evenings. Sue had always wanted to invite Ted in for a meal and knew that Ronnie would never permit that. He had come by to fix a rotten fence post that made the gate impossible to latch. It was a problem, since in good weather most of her customers came in the front yard to pick up their pies. He not only put in a new fence post, he also repaired the gate and painted it. They would often share silence when they were in each other's vicinity. Sue felt comfortable knowing she didn't have to chatter inanely. When the laconic Ted did speak, Sue paid attention. So he's finishing up his second helping of split pea soup when he made a suggestion. "Looks like the pie business is keeping you pretty busy," as he buttered a thick slab of fresh cornbread. Measuring ingredients for a batch of blueberry pies, Sue paused. The heartfelt smile sculpting her full lips reminded Ted of brilliant summer days. "You got that. I'm baking a dozen a day except Saturday and Friday when I bake more because of Cora's standing order." "Do you sell them all?" Ted chewed the cornbread and washed it down with a gulp of sweetened iced tea. She nodded. "Yep, most of the time. Sometimes might have a pie left, never more than 2 or 3. People order them by phone and pick them up, and I usually leave them out on the table." Scooping up his last spoonful of the tasty soup, he felt shy. He had been formulating a plan that might help her pie business and was uncertain how to broach the topic. Truth be told, her lovely face distracted him. Finally gaining his courage, he blurted, "What if I was to build you some sort of pie safe? That way you could have it inside your front yard or outside the front gate. I could weatherproof it too. You could place the orders in there and the extras and have an honor box for those." It was Sue's turn to be thoughtful. "Why do you think I need a pie safe?" Shrugging his shoulders, he said, as if he hadn't been thinking about making her one for months. "No reason, just thought it might be helpful. That way you wouldn't have too many people traipsing all over your front yard. You might be able to sell the extra ones." She flashed a grin. "Well, does that mean you wasted today by fixing the front gate if people don't come to their yard to pick up their pies?" He sat back, still chewing. He waved his hand at her. "No matter. Gate needed to be fixed and painted anyway." She was warming up to the idea of not having people knocking on her front door. People's energy depleted her. That, more than anything, was why the pie safe sounded like such a great idea. "What would you make it out of?" she asked curiously. She had stopped grinding fresh cinnamon, giving Ted all of her attention. He finished his meal and was leaning back on the kitchen chair in a stupor. The chair clattered to the floor with a bang when she questioned him. He rattled his head to clear the sleepy inertia of a well-fed stomach. Quickly recalling the inventory he'd been calculating for the project, he replied, "I got some first-growth redwood pieces of 2x6 that I've been hanging on to for years. Can't remember why or where I got them. I also have 2 old tin panels with a design that looks like wheat stalks that I could use. You could maybe put out at least a dozen pies at a time." She gazed at him thoughtfully, then walked past him to the front door. It was just steps from the kitchen, as the house was that small. Ted followed her, and she looked out the front window. Turning to Ted, she smiled. Second time today. Ted was keeping count. She so rarely did. She was enthusiastic. "Okay." Returning to the kitchen to continue grinding cinnamon sticks, she asked succinctly, "How much?" Following a few paces behind her, he seated himself again, and he said, "Let me think about it." Decanting the ground cinnamon into a measuring cup, her dark eyes challenged him. Firmly, she proposed. No more than $200. Deal? He smiled. The pie safe was a beautiful work of art. He outdid himself. It was 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep. 2 doors swung out, each set with 3 tin panels etched with a sheaf of wheat. Inside were 4 shelves that could hold a dozen pies. He added a separate shelf for the honor box. The outside was painted a sage green, and Ted left the first growth redwood untouched in the interior. Anyone opening the pie safe appreciated the simple lines. Ted wisely added an exterior open frame around the safe with a pitched roof for additional protection from the weather. He charged her $178, and she gave him 2 apple pies. And that's it. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about pie safes. And I have seen them, but not acting as a pie safe. You know, people use them for storage and stuff like that. And they're really beautiful works of art. And the one that I'm describing in the book, I saw just standing in the corner of a store. I can't even remember what it was, some sort of junk store. And the tin panels were it was this beautiful work. It was etched very, very finely. And each of those panels, there were 6 of them, and they were done exactly alike. And this was done by hand. So the person who was doing them did each of them just the same. And it just kind of took my breath away. And I opened it up kind of like a French door and looked inside, and there was like 2 rickety shelves, and I think that there must have been a couple of others, but people used them in the olden days to store their pies in. So there you go, a pie safe. And thank you for joining me. So this is the beginning of Ted and Sue trying to figure out how they feel about each other. And Wednesday I'm going to be talking about character development and how I got to meet Sue and Ted, because these 2 characters have been in the Walkerville books sort of from the beginning. And they're kind of extra characters, if you will. I'll be back Wednesday to begin talking with you about our plans for the future, probably starting in October, and what's behind the changes we have in store. And I'm also working on a special holiday gift for my Walkerville readers, so tune in for that. And I don't know if you can see my little kitty. She's here joining me, making sure that I'm getting everything right, not saying too much. Remember to check just below this video. YouTube counts everything, so it means a lot if you give us a thumbs up. And it's really helpful if you subscribe to my channel by clicking the big red button. And if you have any questions or comments, there are links to my Facebook and Instagram and my email address. And remember that AC is archiving all of these, so check the playlist on my page. Plus, the direct link for Wednesday night's live stream is there too. I hope to see you then, and thank you so much for joining us.